Good evening. This is Jim Jonas and Stephanie Phillips with another episode of Veterans in Politics. Very excited this evening for our guest. We have Jessica Goodey, who's running for Las Vegas Justice of the Peace, Department number 6. Before we get to Jessica, Stephanie, you got...
Well, like I said last time, I really loved that Liz Cheney got, out defeated last night. That was great. But I want to talk about the FBI raid of our former president. I thought that was completely out of line, unnecessary. They were already talking to him about these documents. And the government just is completely out of control, it seems like. And the FBI. And I don't agree with any of that, how that went down.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because I've been someone who's been fairly critical on politicians rushing to try to impeach presidents, basically because they can. So Bill Clinton, obviously a scumbag, but I thought we had bigger issues in the country at the time. Because I knew the Senate wasn't going to take it seriously anyway, so why are we wasting this time to impeach this guy? Because they're not going to remove him anyway. And then them impeaching Trump twice. Good balls. Now, when it comes to Biden, and a lot of people were talking about it. They were like, "Oh yeah, of course, if I get elected to Congress, then then we should impeach Biden." Yep. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, "Okay, guys, enough. Let's stop with this because this isn't the way impeachment was supposed to work." Yeah. Like, I wish we would actually do a constitutional amendment to clarify it a little clearer. What high crimes and misdemeanors actually means in today's society so we could get on a better track. But I'll be honest, Biden's pushing it on this because here's the thing, like you're using a government agency, to go to actually go after, and he's not, the Biden administration knows darn well that Trump is seriously considering running again.
Oh, he's going to.
So he's using a government agency, the FBI of all things, to go after a political opponent.
Yeah.
And he's using a law enforcement agency in order to do it. I think that's pretty close to an impeachable offense, in my humble opinion.
Well, and just look at the invasion over our border. It's supposed to be a sovereign border. It's supposed to protect our country, and is allowing a complete invasion of our country. That's treason to me. That's impeachable.
And then now I don't think this is an impeachable offense, but really still pisses me off, excuse my language, but it really drives me nuts. Okay, so the whole gun debate, like it's no secret that typically the way it's going to work with administrations, let's just be honest. If you have a Republican administration, historically, they're going to be a little more literal about the Second Amendment. Thou shalt not be infringed. We've had our rhinos that still mess with it, but not to the extreme that a Democrat administration, for the most part, would. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing. So now we got an administration that wants to take away gun rights or restrict certain gun rights from law-abiding citizens. But yet they want to put 87,000 IRS agents with concealed weapon permits out into the population.
I have a problem with that.
So basically they're saying in a nutshell, take guns away from the people, but it's okay for the government to have them. I think that might have something to do with the reason why we broke away from England to begin with.
Yeah. They just don't want the high capacity magazines and they don't want the ARs.
Right.
So, but they can arm their little IRS agents with Glock 9s and, 45s and stuff. Anyway, okay, Jessica.
Yeah, I was going to say, look at
segue. That was a lot of information very, very quickly.
Oh, trust me, that's why I'm like, look at the clock going, because Stephanie and I could be here for a full week.
The beginning is always supposed to be a rant, right?
Yeah.
But then it just,
all of a sudden we just did it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, we're supposed to be here for a reason.
That's okay,
all right, guys. Get control of this, Jim. Sorry, get control. Let's go.
All right. Okay, so Jessica Goodey. Could you give us a brief background about yourself?
Sure. So from the legal perspective, I have been an attorney here in town for 12 years. Actually law school that brought me out here. I had never set foot in Las Vegas before coming to law school. I fell in love with the community, and now you guys are just stuck with me. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So I've been practicing for 12 years. All of that, or the vast majority of that, has been in the civil realm. So handling everything from business disputes, personal injury, medical malpractice, landlord-tenant. I've done some bankruptcy. I've done some criminal, like very, very little criminal in a full, honesty. I've done, a handful of family law cases and a handful of wills and trust stuff. My forte, I'm not allowed to say expertise, but my forte is civil. All manners of civil. So the breaches of contract, personal injury, medical malpractice, the landlord tenant, that's really where I focus my practice.
Okay. I did forget something. I apologize. Just for viewers and listeners information. So Timothy Treffinger, who's running for Clark County District Attorney, is sponsoring our podcast, but it's not being endorsed by Jessica Goodey. And I just wanted to make sure that I got that out there.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. And for anybody who doesn't know, as judicial candidates and as judges, we have a certain set of ethical rules that apply to us. And it's over and above what applies to other candidates. And we are ethically not allowed to endorse any candidate other than ourselves. And so I appreciate that, just because I think it's important that we stay on the right side of ethics, especially during our campaign.
Yeah. Okay. So people get confused, and I can kind of understand why. Can you explain what exactly Las Vegas Justice of the Peace is? Because people get confused. They're like, okay, what's the difference between Justice of the Peace, District Court, then you got all the different specialty courts? People tend to get confused. So what exactly gets covered in Justice Court? And if you could also kind of try to explain what the department numbers mean, if there's any meaning to them at all.
Sure. So I actually have like a whole 30-minute presentation that I give on this. So I will try to narrow it down and just kind of give a broad overview. Okay. I'll kind of take the second part first. So the departments for the voters means absolutely nothing other than just those are the people in that race. The departments are how the courts assign cases once you're in there. So people always ask, like, oh, Department 6, so where is that? Where do I have to live to vote for you? The answer to that question is, if you have Las Vegas in your address, when you write it out, I'm on your ballot. And so I think that there's 10 candidates in the Justice Court races currently on the November ballot. Justice Court in general, it's a lot of people call it our people's court. It is a court of limited jurisdiction, so it handles all of the first appearances on felony cases before it gets sent up to the district court. It handles all misdemeanors that happen within the township of Las Vegas, and trying to describe that's a little bit complicated. But if you get a traffic ticket, they'll tell you whether you're in municipal court or if you're in justice court. So all of the misdemeanors, and then the civil departments handle landlord-tenant issues and any cases for money up to $15,000. Department 6 currently has a civil docket. It's one of two of the 15 departments that handle civil law, which is why I'm running for it, because that's what I have practiced for the last 12 years. And I think it's really important that we have people on our bench that have practiced in those areas.
Right. Okay. And then just briefly too, so what exactly is the process? Because I've always been curious about that. So so let's just say somebody gets arrested, okay, and they get taken to jail. Like what's the process, or who decides, okay, this is going to be your court date in Department 6 or Department 2, or what? How does that process work? How do they decide that?
So it depends on a variety of different factors. So if it's, let's say, a traffic citation, that is just given to you on the ticket when you actually receive it. And we have a specific traffic department that deals with it. All of our traffic tickets are now dealt with online now. You can plead not guilty and set it for trial. And we're still trying to figure out and get those on calendar. Right. But a lot of them are just dealt with through our online system. For the criminal cases, the departments, some of our departments handle very specific cases. So we have a couple of departments that handle battery constituting domestic violence. So if you are charged with that kind of crime, you're going to go to one of these specific departments. We also have a specific DUI court. And then we have our just general criminal docket for batteries, assaults, vagrancy, all of the different types of misdemeanors. And so you will get assigned based on what the specific department is handling those types of cases. As to who makes that decision or when you come back, that is just, it's set through the system. That's not the judges that deal with it. A lot of times that's actually dealt with at the jail. But we do have a new Supreme Court case that came out in the last, I believe, year or so that says if you are arrested and you're held in the jail and not released on your own recognizance almost immediately, then you are entitled to an initial appearance within 48 hours. Our justice court does it within 24. So we hold initial appearance court 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So once you're seen at the initial appearance court, then your case will get sent out to whatever department's going to handle it from then on out, depending upon what the stance of the case is.
Okay. Besides it just being like a natural progression of your career, being a lawyer and then moving to judge, what specifically like made you want to become a judge, and why do you feel judges are so important, such an important part of our community and a service that they provide for the community?
Sure. So kind of two different questions there. So I'll take that. The first part of it is, why do I want to be a judge? I've known probably for about the last 5 years that I wanted to run for judge at some point in the future. I thought it was going to be 2024, 2026. But what happened is in August of 2020, I did a trial in Department 6 in Justice Court. I had been litigating this case for a year. We finally get to trial. And, it's through COVID and the court shut down and all of that kind of stuff. We finally get to trial. It was 3 hours from start to finish. It wasn't super complicated. The plaintiff testified, the defendant testified. We gave the judge some exhibits. And this was just a bench trial, so it was all on the judge. And the judge, who was sitting at the time, said, "I will get you an answer shortly." Well, shortly turned out to be 6 months.
Oh my.
6 months of my client and I, candidly, waiting on the judge to do her job. And so that's when I said, okay, we're not waiting, because I knew that this judge was going to be up for re-election in 2022. So it was, we did that trial in August. I got the decision in February. Because it was a contractual case, my client was entitled to attorney's fees when he won. And so, I filed that motion. It was unopposed. It took the judge 3 months to grant an unopposed motion. Even after I wrote the decision for her at her request, it took another 6 weeks for her to just sign off on my order.
So obviously this judge never heard the saying, justice delayed is justice denied, obviously.
Either that or she just didn't care.
There's no standards of practice that they have to sign by a certain time, or no, it's just whenever?
Yeah. So which is what's frustrating for me, and really, which is, as judges, we're not allowed to run on platforms, right? We can't tell you how we're going to rule on cases that come before us, right, or, align with a political party or anything like that. But what I am actually passionate about is making our courts more efficient. And my platform that I am running on is those decisions that I take under advisement will be out within 2 weeks. Because what we do as attorneys in district court and different levels, if we win, the judge says, okay, you write the motion and get it to me within 2 weeks, and I'll review it and sign off or make changes if I need to. Right. So as an attorney, we do it within 2 weeks. And there's actually a rule that requires us to get it to the judge within 2 weeks. There's no similar rule for judges. For the judge, yeah. And there are guidelines in place from what I understand, but there's no real mechanism of enforcing those. It is really just up to the judge to do that.
Who would be in charge of making something like that, making guidelines?
That was my next question. Like, who can we get after in the legislature? How do we fix that problem?
Yeah, who does that?
It's a court administration thing. So this isn't a legislature because we have separation of powers under our Constitution. So this falls squarely within the court system. And like I said, there are guidelines that the judges are supposed to follow, and it's tracked and things like that, and the chief judge. But at the same time, the court administration can't necessarily force anybody to do anything, can't force our judges to do it because they can't be fired. They're elected positions. You can't fire an elected position. And so, you can discipline them and things like that, but that doesn't actually get the work done. So to answer your second question, and I'll just segue right into that, that's why judges are so important. That's why our judicial elections are so important, because that's the only, not the only, but that's the biggest check and balance we have in our court system to make sure our judges are doing a good job is our elections. And look, the reality of it is if you're going to come in contact with an elected official, it's going to be me as your justice court judge, because I'm going to be the one dealing with your traffic ticket, or if you're picked up on a DUI, or God forbid some, violent crime or something, you're coming to see me first, or somebody like me. If your neighbor's tree falls into your backyard and causes a lot of damage and he doesn't want to fix it, you're coming to see me. If you're in a minor car accident, you're coming to see me. If you own a property and your tenant doesn't pay the rent or damages the property upon move out and security deposits are not enough, you're coming to see me. Or your landlord doesn't return your security deposit, you're coming to see me. Mm-hmm. So our judges really have an immediate impact on all of our lives as a community, because whatever case you're in front of, no one ever walks into a court and says, "Hey, judge, guess what? I just had the best day ever. I'm so excited to be here. I can't wait to tell you about it." Right? Something has went terribly wrong in your life for you to have to come and see me. And so the judge, and good decision, bad decision, right decision, wrong decision, sometimes you just need a decision so you know how to move forward. And we need judges that will do that. And of course, we need judges that will make the right decisions and the good decisions. But sometimes we just need a decision to be able to move forward.
Well, now I understand why Steve likes you so much, because Steve's been beating that drum since the day I met him.
Well, it's like the family court judges continue, and they drag these cases out for years because they keep continuing these. There should be a maximum amount of continuances,
So, I've had some pushback from other judicial candidates on this one, but I'm going to ask it. So you were stating, does it ever, I guess the way I want to ask the question is, does it frustrate you running for judge? Do you run into constituents that you're talking to and they just really don't have much of an understanding of the law?
All the time.
So that's why, in my opinion, I think that's one of the reasons why we get some of the judges we do. Now Steve and I go talk about this constantly about people need to educate yourself. Neither Steve nor I are attorneys, but we understand judges and temperaments and
nobody ever knows the judges on the ballots. I couldn't tell you how many calls I got on this last go around. Who's this and this. They know the state seats and the other seats, but they don't know the judicial ones.
So what do you? So I know it's state law that judges are elected, and I know there's going to be a certain level. There's going to be a certain level of corruption or anomalies, and it, no matter what the process is, but. How do you feel about us electing judges?
So, I'm playing my answer through my mind to make sure I'm not violating my judicial canons.
Right.
So, because it is law, and that's what we do. And so I'll just speak from my own kind of personal experience here. So before starting this campaign, and this is my first campaign I've ever run, I had no idea what I was getting into. I'm still learning as I go. So before starting my campaign, I thought absolutely we need to be electing judges because the appointment process is just ripe with opportunities for corruption and backroom deals and things like that. And I know we have some judges that are recently appointed and this has absolutely nothing to do with them. It's just the opportunity is there for it. And we've seen that happen in past where we've ended up with terrible judges through the appointment process. So I always thought, you know what, I like the election of judges because as an attorney, I know who the judges are and the candidates and things like that. And I believe in the power of the people, and I believe in elections, and I believe in giving a voice to the people. I think that that's a basic tenet of our government that we all agreed to by living in this country. So then fast forward to however many years till I started running this campaign. I am pretty confident this is probably not the best way to do this either, for those exact reasons. So it's difficult for people to become educated about the judges because number one, there's so many candidates because we have so many, we have so many at the time. And because we're not allowed to run on platforms and rightfully so, I actually agree with those ethical rules. There are great reasons for those. Yeah. So it's difficult for people to become educated, which is why I'm super grateful for opportunities like this because I can come on and so people can get to know me and at least learn something about me. The best, and I can't take credit for it. The best solution that I have heard so far, and nothing is perfect, and I don't know whether it would work or not, but is having some sort of judicial candidate committee to review the candidates before they're allowed to fully run and just some basic, like, do you meet the qualifications? Do you have the relevant experience for this? And then yes. Okay, now it goes to the people because then we know that we have some level of basic competency and we're not going to end up with a judge who's never practiced in this area of law. And so, because the only qualifications, so for my seat, the only qualifications is that I've been practicing 5 years and I paid $100 filing fee and that I live in Las Vegas. That's it. Those are my requirements. And so my opponent, for example, has not really ever practiced in justice court civil law. I've pulled his cases. There's not a single one in the civil departments of our justice court. And so he's not handled the types of cases as an attorney that he would be deciding as a judge. And that's problematic. Yeah. This isn't something where we want to learn on the job. We are always learning. It's called a practice of law. Right. But we should start with some level of basic competency in those areas that we're going to be dealing with.
Yes. Speaking of that, and that's a really good point that you brought up. Do you think because judges are so important and there's a lot of discretion that you guys have, and you have to be fair and impartial, and there's just, a lot of things that you guys have to do. Your responsibilities are huge. So in part of that qualifying, should judicial candidates have to take like a mental health test or, should you qualify in that?
That's a good question. Nobody in the 9 months or however long I've been running at this point, nobody's ever asked me that. And I don't. So the attorney in me, obviously, like I hear that and I can argue both sides. Right. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I've heard, we've asked that before and we get pros and cons to it too. But for like, it just, I guess it's one of those things where it's like you can't ever truly you can't really legislate morality. Like there's certain things you can't do. But one of the issues that I have with certain judicial candidates that I've ran across over the years, and I'm not going to be rude and name their names. I won't do that.
I appreciate that.
I won't do that. But I've seen them. It's being a judge is a straight power trip for them. Mm-hmm. And like I've seen judges tell litigants and attorneys alike, the Constitution just doesn't apply in my courtroom, and this is my decision.
Yeah.
So that's why we ask that question is
breaks
because
my heart a little bit right there.
It's like you're in a court of law and the Constitution doesn't apply. Like,
So when that happens, because that really did happen.
It really did happen.
And some other things happened too, like a judge telling a veteran who's in combat to go to another base so he can call in to be at his hearing via phone in a non-combat situation, right? That really happened. Or he was going to get his kids taken away from him.
I'm pretty sure we have an act, like a federal statute and codified in Nevada that says that
we're pretty sure
that's not allowed.
It's a soldier and sailor relief act.
Yes. So having those things in place and having a judge clearly violate that, the discipline commission you don't get satisfaction from that. I mean, to me, if a judge does that, they should be removed immediately. But the discipline commission doesn't really do very much as far as that, right? In those instances, they didn't do anything.
They don't. That's one of the reasons why I kind of like in a roundabout way, I always kind of bring up the election process because it's like once they're elected, it's almost impossible to remove a judge.
Right.
And that's why this is so important. And that's why, a lot of people ask me why I'm running, right? And I have this story, and it's true why I decided to run. But on a deeper level than that, people will say, I've owned my business for 9 years now. I ran my own business, so I have flexibility, and I can make as much money as I want as a small business owner. The more that I work, the harder that I work, the more money I can make, and there's virtually no limit to that. Going to a judicial position, the exact opposite is true, right? Yeah. Like there is a very clear salary, and don't get me wrong, it is a good salary. Candidly, it's a pay cut for me based off from running my business. Yeah. And I lose the flexibility. I lose the, decision-making authority over all parts of my life. And so you don't get a lot of people in my position who run for judge. And so other business owner attorneys will ask me, they're like, why are you doing this? And I said, you know what? Like I've done well for myself. My son is a senior in high school. So we've almost got him out of the house, and I'm in a position where I can do all of this. And I think we are called upon when we see something that's wrong and we can be part of the solution to step up and be the solution, even if it comes at a bit of a personal sacrifice. And so you're right. It's hard to get judges out, and we need people like me. And there are some other judicial candidates that are running in this year as well that are doing very similar things. And those are the people that we need.
Yeah. What's your opinion on statutes that are like minimum sentencing laws and stuff that are passed down from the legislature?
If you don't like those, go to your legislature. I have no ability to change those.
Well, I know you don't.
And my job is to enforce the law.
But do you have a problem with the legislature giving those?
I'm not allowed to answer that. I'm not allowed.
I tried.
You did try.
I tried.
He's trying to slip one in.
I know, right?
Okay.
If you have a problem with that, you go to your legislator, because that is not, and especially at the lower court level, my job is to enforce the law. Not what I think that it should be, not the way that I want it to be, what it is. And if I have to be okay making decisions on laws that even if I don't agree with the law, and I serve as a alternate judge, an immunity court judge, and an arbitrator, because I wanted to get the experience. Knowing I was going to do this eventually, I wanted to get the experience. And so I've had situations where I am serving as a judge and I may or may not agree with the law, but my job is to enforce it. And that's what I do. And that's what we have to do as judges.
And I can give my opinion on it. Actually, I don't necessarily have a problem with it so much. And the only reason why is not because I don't want judges to be able to have discretion. That's not why. It's just like if you look at the docket and how ridiculously heavy it is in this town to begin with, if you don't have those guidelines already set in place, like how much time do you want a judge to have to sit there and contemplate this? It's a little bit easier when you can just say, okay, well, yeah, you're guilty and this is the minimum maximum sentence and move on. That's just my opinion. So, Steph, you got any more questions? Because
No,
I just got a general campaign suggestion. Okay. So this is something, it's not something I came up with. I forget what candidate it was, but it was really, he's running for county recorder, I believe. Yeah, I think so. But really interesting. So like you were saying, a lot of people don't know who these judicial candidates are, or they start from the top of the ballot, right? And then they get down, and once they start getting into judges, and they start getting into public administrator, county recorder, they're just like, whatever. Yeah. So when you're out talking with people, suggest that they start at the bottom of their ballot and work up.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then that way they'll see your name right there.
And so, and that's a great suggestion. I do like that. The only thing that I'll say to that is usually if I've talked to somebody, I'm the only judicial candidate that they've talked to, so they're going to find my name on the ballot anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
So, and we talk about educating ourselves and things like that. That's not just on the voters. That's on us as judges, and not just when we're running, right? Yeah. So right now, and I can't keep this pace up, but right now I'm going to anywhere between 3 and 7 events every day. I'm working, still trying to run my business at the same time and do all of the other things and be a wife and a mom. So I can't keep up the 16-hour days, past the election. But it's our job to be out in the community. What happens is you'll see judicial candidates come out during election season, and then you don't see them for 6 years, and then you'll see them come back out again when it's time to run for re-election. So it's important that we're out during campaign season, and so I'm doing that. I try to make any event that I find out about that I have an opportunity to meet new people, to meet new voters, because it's on me to help them get that information and help them educate themselves, because you can read my website and you can read all of that. None of that's the same as having an actual conversation with me. But I think that we need to continue to do that in non-campaign years as well. And again, I can't, make every event, but on the monthly luncheons and dinners and things, instead of coming every month, maybe I come every 2 or 3 months. And so you're still seeing me, and you're still making sure that, I'm with it and doing what I said I would be doing.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I've actually, a judge that I've been friends with for years, it's been a justice court judge for a number of years in this town. And she said the same thing. And I actually, that is a benefit, I think, to the election process of judges, is it gives you an opportunity to get out into the community. So people will actually know their judges. And then judges can kind of educate people as much as they can too,
right,
out in the community.
Absolutely.
I really don't have any more questions for you, other than I just really want to thank you for coming in, and I want to thank you for running for judge first off.
Thank you.
Because judge, in my opinion, it's so important, and it's so overlooked sometimes that it really gets frustrating to me. And Steve and I have been saying it since the beginning, like a judge's decision impacts your life immediately, good or bad. Like after you get done. So you should know who these judges are. You need to educate yourself. You need to understand how the court system works, because we're a land of laws, and I think you're doing, and by running for judge, and hopefully you'll win. You're doing a great.
On wood. Anytime somebody says that,
you're truly doing a great service, not only for the city but for the country as a whole.
Thank you.
I know campaigning is brutal. You might as well have 3 full-time jobs, because I always say you have your full-time job, and campaigning is like working 2 full-time jobs.
It is.
And your family life.
And your family life, yeah.
That stops you there.
Right. And thankfully, there are some candidates doing this with little ones, and my little one is not so little. He's 17. Yeah. So he doesn't want to talk to me most of the time anyway. So he's been a blessing in this, and he's helping out. And I have an amazing husband who's, helping me out, and, he campaigns for me and is, doing all the things at home instead of just, the things that he normally does. And so I'm truly blessed with that. And so if you're watching, honey, thank you.
Is there anything else you want to get out there before I have you close?
No, well, I'm sure there probably is. My campaign managers are probably going to watch and like, you were supposed to talk about this, this, and this.
Well, so what I'll have you do right now is go ahead and look directly into the camera, and then you just say anything else you want to say, and then make sure you give out all your contact information, how people can get involved in your campaign, why they should go to the booth and vote for you.
And what events you have.
And what events,
and how they find out about all these events that you're at so they can come visit you.
Oh, you don't want to do all the events I do, I promise you. They're actually, I say that, it's actually really, it's a lot of fun. I love meeting people. It's probably the best thing about this, is learning about a lot of community organizations. But my name is Jessica Goodey. I am running for Las Vegas Justice Court Department 6. I think that it is important we have judges who have experience in the areas that they're going to be working as a judge. And I am the only candidate in this race that has worked with these cases that I would be deciding as a judge. I'm also the only candidate who has experience presiding over civil and criminal matters. So the same types of cases I would be deciding as a judge. I didn't just wake up one day and decide to do this. I went out and I got the experience first. And I think that that's important to know. I am here for you. I am here to answer any questions. You can find me on all of the social medias. I have an amazing friend who does that for me. So, but I'm on there. You can always reach out to me. My website is jessicagoodeyforjudge.com, and it's Goodey forjudge.com. I'm on Facebook at Jessica Goodey for Judge, Instagram at Jessica Goodey for Judge. I'm not very original, obviously, in coming up with these names. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find, if you just Google Jessica Goodey, you're going to find my business. It's Goodey Injury Law, and you'll find out all the things about me. Please reach out to me. If I can answer any questions, send me an email, reach out. My business phone number is out there, which comes to my cell phone. And I do have an event, actually, and so if you want to help out, come to my event. It's going to be September 8th at, I think, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Via Brazil in Summerlin. It's going to be my general election fundraiser and kickoff, and we are going to be raffling off 2 tickets to the Raiders' first home game of the season, of the regular season, which I think is September 18th. So they're in the lower bowl. They're fantastic seats. So we are going to be out raffling those off as a way to help me get some money for my campaign. And what I always say is, if you want the courts to get better, get Goodey.
Okay, well, that will be all for, we want to thank you again, Jessica, for coming in. I think you would have a really amazing judicial temperament. And that's one of the first things I look for when I vote for judge. Mm-hmm. So with that, that'll be all for this evening with Jim Jonas and Stephanie Phillips with Jessica Goodey. Until next time.
Thank you so much.